New revelations about the Benghazi attack. Yep, before he died, Congressman Bill Young met with Benghazi survivors and learned about details about the attack. Fox has now gained permission to air what he said.
They emphasized the fact that it was a very, very military-type operation. They had knowledge of almost everything in the compound. They knew where the gasoline was. They knew where the generators were. They knew where the safe room was. They knew more than they should have about that compound.
All this is the Benghazi survivors who testified yesterday were required to sign non-disclosure agreements by the CIA. Here with details, Fox News contributor and senior writer at the Weekly Standard, Stephen Hayes. Stephen, thanks for joining us today from Naples,
Morning,
Florida.
guys.
Good to have you. So I know we can't identify the people who testified yesterday, but generally, who were they, and why was it okay to talk yesterday?
Well, there were three CIA-affiliated personnel who were on the ground and engaged in the fighting in Benghazi. These are people who are actually there, who were helping in the fighting. As I understand it, one of them was standing next to one of the Americans who was killed during the fighting in Benghazi during those attacks. So these are people, I think, at least by experience, bring a fair amount of credibility and are able to give a perspective that nobody else has been able to do, particularly in the aftermath of the problems with the 60 Minutes report.
Yeah, so how significant is it what Bill Young said before he passed away?
Well, I think it's yet another piece of evidence that suggests that this was a planned, coordinated terrorist attack on the compound. And the fact that somebody like David Ubben, who was the source for Congressman Young, knew that and was telling that to congressmen and presumably telling that to folks when he was interviewed, whether it was the FBI, whether it was State Department folks, when he was interviewed upon leaving Benghazi, I think is suggestive that the administration knew this probably a long time before they let us know that this was a planned, coordinated terrorist attack.
Sure. And no doubt, Stephen, the administration has not wanted this story out. And what's interesting is, we've kind of heard back channel that the CIA guys were asked to sign non-disclosure agreements so they wouldn't reveal any of the details. CIA came out and said, no, we didn't ask them to sign anything. They had to sign them, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean, this has been really sort of a long simmering dispute kind of behind the scenes, Steve, as you suggest. And, it was the position of the CIA, no, we did not ask them to sign non-disclosure agreements. They were not subjected to additional polygraph tests. John Brennan wrote a letter that the CIA eventually released with a categorical denial that they were asked to sign any new non-disclosure agreements related to Benghazi.
And that was a lie. That was a lie.
It turns out they were asked to sign these things at the memorial service for two of the CIA-affiliated guys who were killed in the attacks. The survivors were then presented with new non-disclosure agreements that, while they didn't mention Benghazi, obviously were related to Benghazi. Their lawyer says they were related to Benghazi. They were presented at the memorial service. These were Benghazi survivors. They came back. The subject of the day was Benghazi. It strains credulity to suggest that these didn't have anything to do with Benghazi.
Right, and so just amazing, too, that they told the families when the bodies ran to Dover, it's about a video. Everyone was talking about a video when they knew instantly it was a military operation. The recent poll also reveals that the American people want to continue the investigation on Benghazi by a toll of 65% yes, 31% no. So we'll continue to do it. Thanks, Stephen Hayes.
You bet.